Tonight, we're going to walk through a single, ordinary day in medieval Europe. There is nothing you need to learn, nothing you need to remember, and nothing that will demand your attention. This is not a story about kings or battles, saints or disasters. It is simply a quiet day, lived by ordinary people, in a small village that could have existed almost anywhere in Europe. Many centuries ago. As you listen, you may imagine yourself slowly stepping away from the modern world. The glow of screens fades. The steady hum of machines softens and then disappears. Time begins to loosen its grip. Hours are no longer measured by glowing numbers or buzzing alarms, but by light, sound, and simple routine. You find yourself standing just outside a medieval village as the night gently releases its hold on the land. The sky is pale, washed with the first hint of dawn. A thin mist rests across the fields, clinging to the earth like a slow, quiet breath. The air is cool and clean, carrying the faint scent of damp soil and smoke from dying embers. Somewhere, in the distance, a rooster calls not sharply, but patiently, as if it has done the same thing every morning for years. There are no sudden movements here. The village wakes gradually. Low, wooden cottages sit close together, their walls darkened by time and weather. Roofs of straw and thatch curve gently under years of rain and wind. Most homes have only one or two small openings for windows, and even those are covered with cloth or thin shutters. Inside, the light is dim, but warm. Within one of these cottages, a family begins to stir. A man rises from a simple bed of straw and wool. The floor beneath his feet is packed earth, cool and smooth from use. He moves slowly, careful not to wake the others too quickly. His movements are practiced, familiar. There is no sense of rushing. The day has begun and it will take its time. Nearby, a woman adds a small piece of wood to the hearth. The fire comes back to life with a soft crackle, sending a faint orange glow across the room. Shadows stretch along the walls, dancing gently as the flame settles. A pot is placed over the heat, and water begins to warm, slowly, patiently. The children wake next, rubbing sleep from their eyes. They are quiet, not because they are told to be, but because this is simply how mornings are. Words are saved for later. For now, the day unfolds without needing commentary. Outside, the church bell rings. It is not loud or insistent. It does not demand obedience. Instead, it marks time the way breathing marks life, steady, unquestioned, always present. The bell tells the village that morning has arrived, just as it always does. Doors begin to open. A man steps outside, pulling a cloak around his shoulders. His breath becomes visible in the cool air. Another follows, carrying a wooden tool worn smooth by years of use. They nod to each other, a quiet greeting. No words necessary. The village path is narrow and uneven, formed not by design but by countless footsteps. It leads past homes, past a small well, and toward the open fields that stretch beyond the village's edge. Dew clings to the grass, catching the growing light of the sky. The sun has not yet fully risen, but its presence is felt. The darkness retreats slowly, not all at once. It softens, becoming less firm, less important. In the fields, work begins. A plow is guided carefully through dark soil, the earth turning in steady lines behind it. There is a simple rhythm here. Step, pull, breathe, repeat. The land is familiar, known like an old companion. The men and women working these fields understand it by feel more than thought. Nearby, animals stir. Cows low softly, their breath thick and slow. Chickens scratch at the ground, already awake and searching. A shepherd guides his flock with gentle sounds rather than commands. No one raises their voice. There is no need. This work is not exciting, but it is dependable. Each movement serves a purpose, and each purpose fits neatly into the shape of the day. There is comfort in knowing what comes next. Back in the village, others tend to their own tasks. A woman sits near her doorway with a bundle of wool, her hands moving in a practiced rhythm as she spins thread. The wheel turns quietly, its soft hum blending with the murmur of the morning. A child sits nearby, watching, occasionally reaching out to touch the wool before being gently guided away. In another cottage, a man checks a wooden door that loosened during the night. He presses it back into place, tapping carefully with a small tool. The sound is calm and unhurried. This repair is not urgent. It only needs to be done well. Farther still, faint, steady metal sounds drift through the air, the blacksmith already awake, shaping iron with small measured strikes. Each tap is controlled, even, familiar. There are no harsh clangs here, only a steady pattern that repeats and repeats. As the morning settles in, the village becomes a quiet collection of moving parts, each one turning in its own time. No one oversees it. No one directs it. The day simply happens, the way it always has. The sun rises a little higher now. Light touches the rooftops, warming the thatch. The mist loosens and fades, lifting from the fields and slipping silently away. Shadows shorten. Colors soften and deepen. The world feels awake, but not busy. There is no headline, no announcement, no great event waiting in the hours ahead. Just a day. And as that day continues to unfold, it does so gently, without urgency, inviting you to move through it at the same quiet pace. For now, you can rest here in the calm of the morning, as medieval Europe breathes into another ordinary day. As the morning continues, the village slowly settles into its rhythm. The paths between the cottages are now clearly visible, worn smooth by years of familiar footsteps. The earth is firm beneath each step, still cool from the night. A thin line of smoke rises from several chimneys, drifting upward and dissolving into the growing light of the sky. Inside the cottages, mornings remain quiet. There is no sudden rushing from one task to another. A piece of bread is broken carefully, not cut. It is dense and dark, made from coarse grain, and it takes time to chew. A thin soup warms over the fire, releasing a gentle, earthy smell that fills the small space. The sound of simmering water is soft and steady, like a whisper. Bowls are shared. Hands move slowly. No one eats in silence because they are told to, but because this is the pace that feels natural. The day is long, and there is no reason to hurry through its beginning. Outside, the fields draw people outward. Cloaks are adjusted. Tools are lifted. A wooden gate creaks as it opens, its sound familiar and almost comforting. Beyond it, the land stretches gently, shaped by work rather than design. Low hills rise in the distance, their edges softened by grass and morning light. The soil is dark and rich, still holding the coolness of the night. Each step across the field leaves a clear mark, footprints visible until the sun dries the earth later in the day. A plow is set carefully into the ground, and the slow work resumes. Muscles move in patterns learned over years, guided less by thought and more by memory. There is a calm focus in this labor. Breathing matches movement. The quiet is broken only by the sound of turned soil and the occasional call of birds overhead. No one counts time. No one checks to see how far along they are. The work will continue until the light says otherwise. Not far away, Animals are tended with the same gentle familiarity. A cow is milked patiently, the steady rhythm of the task producing a soft, consistent sound. Chickens wander freely, pecking at the ground with quick, purposeful movements. A dog lies nearby, alert but relaxed, watching without concern. Back in the village, those who remain closer to home begin their own morning routines. A woman shakes out a woolen blanket, the fibers catching the sunlight for a moment before settling again. Another carries water from the well, the bucket swinging lightly at her side. The rope slides smoothly over the wood, worn exactly where countless hands have held it before. A child sits on the stone edge of the well, legs dangling, listening to the gentle echo as the bucket rises. The sound is rounded and hollow, fading quickly back into quiet. From a nearby workshop comes the subdued rhythm of careful work. Wood is smoothed, joints are checked, small adjustments made without hurry. Each object has a purpose, and doing the task correctly matters more than doing it quickly. The village feels lived in, but never crowded. Space exists between people, between sounds, between moments. The air carries the blended scents of earth, wood smoke, and morning bread. None of them overpowering, all of them familiar. As the sun climbs higher, the early chill slowly gives mild warmth. Cloaks loosen, sleeves are rolled back. The sounds of the morning settle into a steady background, neither loud nor silent, just present. It is still early in the day, and there is no sense of anything needing to change. This is how mornings pass. Here unremarkable, unannounced, and entirely complete in themselves. By mid-morning, the day has fully opened. The sun now sits higher in the sky, its light more confident, spreading evenly across the fields and the village alike. It warms the backs of those working outdoors and settles gently on the rooftops, drying the last traces of dew. The air feels lighter than it did at dawn, easier to breathe. Carrying sounds a little farther than before. In the fields, the work continues much as it began, unbroken by any clear dividing line between early and late morning. Furrows stretch longer now, the dark soil turned and waiting. Hands pause briefly, resting on wooden handles before pressing forward again. These small pauses are not planned. They happen naturally, guided by the body rather than the clock. Nearby, bundles of cup plants are gathered and tied. The motion is repetitive, steady, almost calming to watch. Fingers know exactly where to grip, how tight to pull, when to release. Years of doing the same motion have smoothed away any uncertainty. A light breeze moves through the grass, bending it gently, never enough to disrupt the work. It carries the faint sound of conversation, quiet and unhurried. Words are exchanged sparingly, observations about the weather, about the state of the ground, about nothing in particular. No one feels the need to fill the silence. Along the edge of the village, the blacksmith steps back from his work for a moment. The fire inside his forge glows softly, no longer bright with fresh flame, but steady and reliable. He wipes his hands on a worn cloth, studies the shape of a tool he has been working on, then makes one small correction before setting it aside to cool. The sound of metal meeting metal has faded for now, leaving the space quiet again. In another part of the village, a woman kneels near a wooden tub, washing cloth in clear water drawn from the well. She presses the fabric against itself, lifts it, and lets the water fall back in gentle streams. Droplets catch the light briefly before disappearing. Each piece is folded neatly when finished and set aside to dry. Children move through the village in small, loosely formed groups. They are never far from work, but not always part of it either. Some carry errands, small baskets, light bundles. Others simply follow along, observing more than doing. When they play, it is quiet and simple. A game formed from sticks, stones, and imagination, dissolving as easily as it began. A cart passes slowly down the village path, its wooden wheels turning with a familiar creak. The driver walks beside it, one hand resting lightly against the frame, guiding rather than pushing. There is no destination that requires speed. Everything arrives when it arrives. From a distance, the sound of a bell drifts briefly across the fields. It is lower, softer than the morning bell, marking the passage of the day rather than calling attention to it. Those who hear it do not stop what they are doing. They simply note it and continue. The pace of life holds steady here, balanced between effort and rest. There is no sense of anticipation, no need to check what comes next. Each task leads naturally into the next, just as the morning has led into this moment without announcement. Light gathers on the stone walls, on wooden doors smoothed by years of touch. The village feels settled, comfortable in the shape of the day. Nothing presses in from the outside world. Nothing interrupts this steady flow of work, breath, and motion. By the time the sun has climbed a little higher still, the morning's labor has become a quiet, sustained presence, wrapping the village in a feeling of calm continuity. One task completing itself as another gently begins. A short distance from the village, partially hidden by trees and gentle folds in the land, stands a small monastery. Its stone walls are plain and weathered, built without ornament or display. The structure feels settled into the earth, as though it has always been there. Windows are narrow and few, designed to admit light without distraction. The air around the building carries a cooler stillness, even as the day continues to warm elsewhere. Inside, the world grows quieter. Footsteps echo softly against stone floors and then fade. The thick walls dim outside sounds, leaving only a hushed calm. Light enters in careful lines, sliding across the floor and up the walls, changing slowly as the sun moves overhead. In the small scriptorium, several monks sit at wooden desks worn smooth by decades of use. Each man bends over parchment, his posture relaxed but attentive. Quills glide slowly, leaving precise lines of ink behind. The motion is deliberate, unhurried, respectful of the task itself. There is no conversation here. Words are preserved, not spoken. The scratching of quill against parchment forms a quiet, steady sound, almost rhythmic. It blends with the occasional soft shift of wood or the faint whisper of pages being turned. Each letter takes time. Each space is placed with care. The work cannot be rushed, and no one attempts to. Candle flames burn low, their light warm and steady. Wax slowly softens and bends, the subtle movement almost impossible to notice unless one is watching closely. The smell of parchment, ink, and wax creates an atmosphere that feels separate from the rest of the world, sealed and complete. A monk pauses, lifting his hand to examine the shape of a letter. He corrects it gently, adjusting the line before continuing. Behind him, another stretches his fingers briefly, easing stiffness, then resumes writing without delay. The passage of time is felt here not in minutes, but in completed lines and finished pages. Outside the scriptorium, others move through their duties with similar care. One tends a small garden, trimming herbs that will be used for cooking and simple remedies. Another walks slowly along the cloister, hands folded, breath even, matching the pace of his steps. There is no sense of isolation here, only focus. The world has been narrowed down to what is immediately present: a page, a path, a breath. In doing so, it becomes larger in a quiet, satisfying way. The monastery exists alongside the village, not above it or apart from it. Its rhythm mirrors the surrounding land, steady, patient, accepting. Nothing here needs to be hurried, and nothing feels delayed. As the light shifts once more, stretching shadows along the stone floor. The monks continue their work, preserving words that may outlast them. One careful movement at a time. Beyond the walls, the village carries on, unaware of the exact moment when a sentence is finished or a page is complete. And within the monastery, the day moves forward, measured not by bells or demands, but by the quiet progress of hands, ink, and intention. As the sun approaches its highest point in the sky, the village begins to gather again. Gently and without urgency, the small marketplace sits near the center of the village. Little more than an open space bordered by a few sturdy buildings and shaded by a couple of wide, aging trees. The ground here is hard-packed, marked by countless feet and cartwheels. By late morning, it has become a familiar meeting place, not because it is busy, but because it is shared. Simple wooden stalls are set up slowly. There is no rush to claim space. Each merchant knows where to stand, as they have many times before. A cloth is laid across a table. A basket is placed beneath it. Goods are arranged with practical care rather than decoration. The smells of the market drift softly through the air. Fresh bread carries a warm, comforting scent, its crust still firm from the oven. Wheels of cheese sit on clean boards, pale and uneven, their surfaces rough but inviting. Bundles of vegetables, roots, greens, onions are stacked together, still marked by traces of soil. A potter adjusts the position of his bowls and cups, turning each one slightly so it sits flat. Their surfaces are plain, shaped for use rather than beauty. A basket weaver checks the strength of a handle, pulling gently, then nods in quiet approval. People arrive one by one, not all at once. Some come directly from the fields, sleeves rolled back, hands still stained with earth. Others step out from nearby cottages, carrying small amounts of coin or goods to trade. There is no loud calling, no raised voices competing for attention. Conversations remain soft and familiar. Two neighbors pause beside a stall, discussing the quality of the grain from this season. A woman asks after another's family, listening carefully to the reply. A brief smile is exchanged, unremarkable but sincere. These small interactions move easily, without ceremony. Coins change hands with a muted clink, sometimes replaced entirely by barter. A loaf of bread for a piece of cloth, a handful of dried herbs for a bit of cheese. Each exchange is considered fair because it comes from knowing one another, not from calculation. A child watches as a baker breaks a loaf to show its texture inside. The steam is already faded, but the warmth remains. The child is given a small piece, no payment asked. It is accepted quietly, with care. Overhead, the leaves of the trees stir faintly in the breeze, casting shifting patches of light and shade across the marketplace. The shade moves slowly, marking time more gently than any clock. The sounds here are layered but never loud. Footsteps on packed earth, the soft scrape of wood against wood, the distant call of someone guiding a cart. Even laughter, when it rises, remains brief and subdued, settling back into conversation just as easily as it appeared. Nothing extraordinary is bought or sold today. There are no rare items, no surprises. The market exists to support life as it is, not to change it. As the sun holds steady above, people begin to drift away again, carrying baskets that are slightly lighter or slightly heavier than before. Stalls are not broken down all at once, but disappear slowly, one by one, as each merchant decides they have had enough. The open space remains calm and emptying, holding the warmth of the day and the memory of quiet exchange. And just like that, the village begins to turn inward again, ready for the stillness and rest that comes with the middle of the day. The middle of the day arrives without announcement. The sun lingers high above the village, steady and patient, casting short shadows that rest close to the feet of those who move through the open spaces. The warmth is gentle rather than heavy, settling on stone, wood, and skin alike. It is the kind of warmth that invites stillness instead of activity. Meals are taken simply, often where people happen to be. Some return to their cottages, ducking through low doorways into the familiar dimness inside. Others remain outdoors, sitting along shaded walls or beneath trees, whose leaves filter the light into soft patterns. Food is brought out in small portions, whatever is at hand, whatever is enough. Bread is broken again, its texture firm and filling. Cheese is sliced carefully, each piece meant to last. A pot of soup, thin but warm, is shared between several people, its steam rising slowly before disappearing into the air. Voices stay low. There is no need to speak much. The sounds of eating are unremarkable, blending easily with the quiet of the day. A swallow of water, the gentle scrape of a bowl, the soft placement of hands returning to rest. Afterward, bodies naturally slow. Some lean back against walls warmed by the sun, eyes half closed, not asleep but unhurried. Others lie briefly in the shade, cloaks folded beneath their heads. This pause is not planned or discussed. It simply happens, as though the day itself has suggested it. In the fields, work eases for a time. Tools rest on the ground. Animals settle into stillness, choosing spots where the breeze can reach them. Even birds seem quieter now, conserving their movement in the suspended hush of midday. The village feels as if it is holding its breath, not because anything is expected, but because nothing needs to happen for a little while. Time stretches gently here, without bells or signals. The moment extends just long enough for muscles to loosen and thoughts to drift. Worries, if they exist, are momentarily set aside. There is no pressure to solve anything, to plan beyond the afternoon ahead. Sunlight shifts slowly across the ground, almost imperceptibly. A shadow edges forward, then another. The world continues to move, but at its own careful pace. Eventually, people begin to stir again, one by one. A hand presses against the ground. A stretch. A long breath in, released without effort. The pause ends not all at once, but gradually, as naturally as it began. The day, having rested, is ready to continue. As the afternoon takes hold, the village eases back into motion. The sun has shifted westward, its light softening slightly, no longer at its brightest, but still warm and steady. Shadows grow longer again, stretching across paths and fields, moving slowly enough that they are barely noticed. The air feels settled, calm, carrying the muted sounds of work resumed. People return to their tasks without any clear signal. It happens piece by piece. Someone lifts a tool where it was left. Another straightens from a resting place and walks back toward a fence or doorway. The village never fully wakes again. It simply continues. In the fields, small groups focus on lighter work now. Loose stones are gathered from the edge of a plot and stacked neatly. A broken section of fence is repaired with careful hands, the wood pressed firmly back into place. Movements remain efficient, but unhurried, guided by habit rather than force. Closer to the cottages, mending becomes the work of the moment. Cloth is drawn across laps, needles moving in steady patterns. The sound of thread pulling through fabric is almost inaudible, yet constant. A tear is closed, a seam strengthened. Each small act extends the life of something already well used. Firewood is collected and stacked, piece by piece. Hands test the weight of each log before placing it down. The pile grows slowly, not impressive in size, but sufficient. Enough for warmth. Enough for cooking. Enough for the coming evening. Children continue to move between these activities, neither separated from the adults nor tightly directed by them. They watch, they help, they wander. A stick becomes something to draw lines in the dirt. A flat stone becomes a seat, then a step, then something entirely forgotten. The sounds of the afternoon are few and gentle. A hammer meets wood with a dull, measured tap. Fabric shifts softly as it is folded. Somewhere nearby, a cart rolls a short distance before coming to rest. Nothing rises above the calm. The light continues to change, growing warmer in color as the sun lowers. Surfaces that were bright at midday now glow with a softer tone. Wooden walls catch the light differently than stone, and the path through the village appears more textured, its worn surface highlighted by the angle of the sun. There is a sense that the heavier work of the day has already passed. What remains is maintenance, care, and preparation. Tasks are chosen not because they must be finished immediately, but because they fit easily into the quiet hours ahead. No one counts what has been accomplished. There is no checklist, no tally. The measure of the afternoon is simply how it feels balanced, manageable, complete, enough. As the sun lowers further, the air begins to cool just slightly. Sleeves are pulled back down. Cloaks settle more fully around shoulders. The shift is subtle, barely registered, yet it gently signals that the day is edging toward its close. The village responds without thought, continuing its steady pace, comfortable in the knowledge that there is still time, and nothing pressing to disturb it. The approach of evening is felt before it is seen. The sunlight softens into gold, spreading low and wide across the village. It slips between buildings and across open ground, leaving long, gentle shadows that stretch and blend together. The air cools in small, pleasant degrees, carrying the quiet promise of rest. In the fields beyond the village, the last of the day's work draws to a close. Tools are gathered and cleaned with simple care. Dirt is brushed from hands and sleeves. Gates are unlatched and then closed again with familiar movements. The land, turned and tended, is left to settle on its own. Animals begin their slow return. Cows are guided back toward their shelter, hooves pressing softly into the earth. Sheep move in loose groups, their shapes shifting gently as they pass through narrow paths. Chickens settle closer to the cottages, drawn instinctively toward warmth and safety. The sounds they make are low and unhurried, matching the tone of the hour. Within the village, doors open and close as people come back together. The open spaces empty gradually, not all at once. A wooden latch settles into place. A cloak is hung where it will be reached again in the morning. Firewood gathered earlier is brought inside, arranged neatly near hearths. Smoke begins to rise once more from chimneys, this time in quiet, steady columns. The smell of burning wood deepens, richer than in the morning, settling comfortably in the air. Inside the cottages, fires are coaxed back to life, not for work, but for warmth and light. Light fades from the sky in slow layers. The blue above deepens, then darkens. The edges of the village blur slightly as details soften. Windows glow faintly, small pockets of warmth against the coming night. The village feels contained now, drawn inward, held together by its own routines. People move more slowly. Conversation is brief and gentle. The day's tasks no longer matter. What has been done is done. What has not can wait. As the last light slips behind the horizon, a quiet completeness settles over the village. There is no ceremony to mark it, no signal beyond the shared understanding that evening has arrived. The world narrows to what is close a home, a fire, familiar faces. The sounds of the day fall away, replaced by the soft crackle of wood and the steady rhythm of breathing. Night approaches calmly, without urgency, ready to bring the village into rest. The final brightness of the day fades evenly, as if the light itself is growing tired. Inside the cottages, the world becomes smaller and warmer. Firelight flickers against rough wooden walls, casting gentle, shifting shadows that move without urgency. The flames are low and steady, carefully tended so they will last through the evening. Each spark feels measured, deliberate, calm. Families gather near the hearth, sitting close enough to share warmth without crowding. Meals are prepared slowly, nothing elaborate, nothing new. A pot is placed over the fire. Bread is warmed again, its surface catching just enough heat to soften. The motions are familiar, practiced, and quietly reassuring. As food is shared, voices remain soft. There is light conversation, the kind shaped by long familiarity. Comments about the weather. A brief mention of tomorrow's work, without concern or planning beyond what is necessary. Small observations that do not ask for answers. No one speaks for long. No one listens with urgency. Children sit quietly nearby, their energy lowered by the long day. Some trace patterns in the dirt floor with their fingers. Others lean against the parent's side, comforted by the closeness and warmth. Eventually, they grow still, caught halfway between wakefulness and sleep. Outside, the village rests. Paths that were busy earlier lie empty now. The marketplace is silent, its open space returned to shadow. The sky above deepens toward darkness, stars beginning to appear one by one, faint but steady. The night air cools further, settling over roofs and fields alike. Within each home, the fire becomes the center of attention. Hands extend toward it, palms open, then pull back again. The gentle crackle fills the spaces where words might otherwise go. It is a sound that asks nothing, demands nothing, and gives enough. As the evening deepens, movement slows even more. The day's tiredness is not heavy or unpleasant. It arrives gently, like a weight settling exactly where it belongs. One by one, people rise from their places near the hearth. The fire is adjusted, banked carefully so it will last through the night. A final log is placed. Embers glow softly, holding their warmth in silence. Settling into sleep is unhurried. Beds of straw and wool are prepared without fuss. Cloaks are folded. Shoes are set aside. There is no sudden ending to the evening, only a gradual letting go. Breathing slows. Thoughts drift. The outside world fades completely. In the darkness, the village is still, wrapped in quiet and routine. Another ordinary day has passed, complete and unremarkable, just as it was meant to be. And as night settles fully over medieval Europe, everything rests ready when the time comes to begin again. The evening settles fully now, and the village grows quieter still. Inside the cottages, The fire has burned down to a steady bed of glowing embers. The light is softer than before, slower, filling the room with a calm amber glow. Shadows no longer dance along the walls, but rest there, stretched and still. Those who remain awake sit close to the hearth, wrapped in warm cloaks or simple wool blankets. The warmth rises gently, meeting the cool night air that slips in through tiny gaps in the wood. Outside sounds have nearly vanished, replaced by a deep, surrounding silence. Conversation continues, but only in fragments. A few words are spoken, then allowed to fade. Someone mentions a task for the next day. Nothing urgent, just an acknowledgement that tomorrow will come in its own time. Another replies with a short nod or a quiet sound of agreement. There is no discussion beyond that. Stories begin, not the kind filled with danger or excitement, but familiar ones. Memories that have been told many times before. The way a past winter felt colder than most. A harvest that was especially kind. Small moments that hold no lesson. Only warmth. Voices remain low and even. No one raises their tone. The purpose is not to be heard clearly, but to maintain a sense of closeness, of shared presence. The sound of speech blends into the crackle of embers until one is barely distinct from the other. A child shifts, half asleep now, head resting against a shoulder. Breathing deepens, slow and steady. Someone gently adjusts a blanket without speaking, careful not to interrupt the quiet. Time loses its shape here. There is no need to know how long the fire has burned or how late it has become. The evening stretches comfortably, measured only by the gradual fading of energy and the warmth slowly receding from the room. Eventually, silence takes over naturally. Words stop because they are no longer needed. The fire settles deeper into embers. The glow dims, but does not disappear. It holds steady, patient, and dependable. One by one, people rise quietly. Movements are slow, deliberate, almost ceremonial in their calm. There is no announcement, no clear goodbye to the evening, only a shared understanding that rest is ready. The last glance at the fire lingers for a moment. Then eyes turn away. The room darkens further. Outside the cottage, the village remains wrapped in night. No lights move. No voices carry. The world feels close and contained, held together by darkness and familiarity. Inside. Breathing becomes the only sound. The day, with all its small tasks and quiet moments, loosens its hold completely. Nothing presses forward. Nothing pulls attention away. There is only rest now, deep and undisturbed, waiting to carry the village gently into sleep. The night has fully claimed the village. Darkness settles, evenly across rooftops, fields and narrow paths, smoothing the world into quiet shapes and softer edges. The sky overhead is calm and clear, stars scattered gently across it, steady and unchanging. There is no sound of movement now, no sign of wakefulness beyond the slow rhythm of breathing inside the cottages. Within the homes, sleep has arrived naturally. Bodies rest on beds of straw and wool, wrapped against the cool night air. The fires have been banked low, their warmth held carefully in glowing embers that will last until morning. The rooms are still familiar, safe in their simplicity. Outside, the air cools further, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke and earth. Trees stand motionless. Fields lie untouched, waiting without expectation. The village seems to pause, suspended in the gentle silence of the night. Time no longer matters here. There are no signals to mark its passing, no bells, no voices. The hours drift by quietly, unnoticed and uncounted. The world exists only in breath, in rest, in the slow passing of shadows beneath the stars. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls once, then falls silent again. The sound fades easily, swallowed by the darkness. Nothing else responds. The village remains at rest. Tomorrow will come, as it always does, bringing another quiet morning, another familiar rhythm. But tonight, there is no need to think ahead. The future holds no urgency in this moment. For now, everything is exactly as it needs to be: simple, steady, complete. As sleep deepens, awareness softens further. Thoughts drift and dissolve. The day fades entirely from memory, leaving only stillness behind. And in this stillness, medieval Europe rests, unchanging, unhurried, waiting calmly for the first light of a new dawn.